Welcome to Parev TV. We are honored to be joined by writer, director of an action-packed movie entitled Respite. His name is Saro Varjabedian. Saro, thank you very much for giving us your time and telling us about your exciting world. Uh, I've always believed that filmmaking is a magical, creative art, and I also believe that we are somehow moving from information age into a creative art age because I see around me so many people interested in animation, films, musicals, theaters. Uh, Sarah, where did it all begin for you? There must have been some date or day or a person who has really ignited that spark in you.
Well, that's a great question. And by the way, thank you for having me, Bartan. I'm so happy to be here. It's an honor as well. So I guess the spark came, I would say, from my grandfather. My grandfather was a machinist, but his kind of passion was photography and video. He
Really?
always had a camera around his neck. He was always taking pictures. He was always doing home video recordings. And later on, when I got a little bit older, I would ask if I could borrow his camera. And I think that probably ignited the passion. But it took a while to figure out that you can go into filmmaking or video work as a career. That was the part that still didn't click in until much later on in college.
You know, you speak about grandpa's cameras. I also grew up in a family with cameras, and we would take the film, 36 images to contact, the whole story and how things have changed. I don't know, over the past 2 or 3 decades, things have revolutionized. Nowadays, everybody has an iPhone, i12, nothing less than 12, and they can work magic with these tools. How do you account to that revolution that has taken place?
That's an interesting question. Uh, Such a big question too, because there's also how it's affecting society and how
Absolutely.
it's affecting the next generation. Because, yeah, as a kid, I remember having to load film and you'd have to print the film, and that was the way you would see it and be able to, and you would have all these photo albums. And being that you could only take 36 pictures, you had to be a little bit more frugal about how often you're filming. You're only trying to get those most important moments. And so when you print the pictures and you have your photo album, you're taking the time to select the pictures you want to remember.
Mhm.
And so there's something to go back to. And now the strange thing I find with all these new tools like the phone, kids now have phones, iPads as pretty early on. My nieces and nephew. I don't have kids of my own, but
Yeah.
I see my nieces and nephew, and my they're taking photos, and we're taking photos too on our phones. But I haven't printed a photo in years,
Mhm.
uh, and I can't say I go back to photos anymore. I know I have them stored somewhere digitally, but I never look at them.
Mhm.
So yeah, I wonder what that's doing to society. I wonder if it cheapens the photo. It doesn't have the same value it once had, I think.
Well, you are looking at this as a cinematographer. Sarah, a lot is changing around us so fast, we cannot even understand how things this will affect society. We call it Generation Z, Generation Alpha, Beta, all these letters are coming up, and every generation we see younger people using this technology, and really lifestyles are different these days. When I introduced you, I told you that it's an honor for us to have you. And I really meant it because we do not have many Armenian filmmakers. And the only one that comes to mind is Atome Goyan. And in France, we have Henri Verneuil. And if you really go back, Rupem Mamoulian. But
Mhm.
tell us what is happening, what can be done, if anything, to promote this area, to promote this field.
To have more Armenian filmmakers. Well, I know a few more Armenian filmmakers who are young in their career that are trying through Columbia, where I studied grad school. I met quite a few Armenian filmmakers. They're trying as well to kind of build a career, and sometimes that career lands them maybe more behind the scenes as producers or editors, as opposed to writers and directors. So it's not that I don't think Armenians aren't trying necessarily, although yeah, I wouldn't say Armenians aren't trying. It's just a very hard
Very hard.
field to get into, and I would say there's very little room at the top to be a celebrity director writer that's well known. I mean, the number of super talented people that try to get in, and then what you're left with are the Scorseses and the well, Adam Ergoyan, who we all know, but it's incredible that he made it to that height. Honestly, I mean, it takes a lot to get there. So, but I think there'll be some more Armenians who'll get there one day.
You know, you keep saying it's pretty hard to get there. And can you give us an idea? What are the difficulties? What are the challenges? I mean, without, as you said, writing is one thing, editing, the music, but we all also boil down to the finances.
Yeah, absolutely. So the challenges is that it's a funny business, the film business,
Mm,
because a lot of people go in thinking it's an art,
mm,
but actually it's a business.
yeah,
And it costs so much to do a film. It's impossible to do one, not impossible, but highly unlikely to do a real film by yourself. Um, and so you need to have a team of people that you hire. But the moment you start hiring people, the project scales up. So now you have to provide for food. You're paying for everyone. You have to rent equipment. So it really is, unfortunately, it's more of a business than an art form, and it's very tricky to balance the two. So
Eh, eh,
that's the limitation.
yeah. Let me go to Respite. Congratulations again. I mean, you must feel very, very good about this. And there was a lot of action, a lot of stories, very interesting story, I have to say. A couple comes to this private detective and says, "Our son is missing, find him." And it goes to serial killers, etc. How can you? I don't want to give too much away, but I'll let you give us an overview. What is the story about, and what inspired you to write this?
So the story is about Jimmy Baz, who is a down and out private eye. He was a police officer at one time, lost his job, lost his family, and through the story, you learn more about his past. Um, but a couple goes to Jimmy Baz and they ask him to find their missing son, a college-age student, and Jimmy goes searching for their son. And along the way, bodies of Muslim men turn up, and now he thinks maybe the kid was perhaps killed by some serial killer, and a serial killer is going around and killing men, and so then he's in pursuit of a serial killer. So that's the story. How I came up with it, actually, so I have a producer who I've worked with for many years, a friend of mine, who actually came to me with the story, or a version of the story. He had read about, or he saw a, a news segment on this practice in Afghanistan, a taboo practice called bachabazi.
Mhm.
And what bachabazi is, a few, let's say, warlords in Afghanistan, powerful men, they will abduct young boys and have them trained to act like women, and they dress them up like girls, and they abuse them and take advantage of them. And it's a taboo practice, not done everywhere in Afghanistan. Obviously, only a few people do it, but there's a name to it because it's done enough that it exists. And so he imagined a story about this boy that was once abducted and turned into a bachabazi who comes to America and then gets revenge against his assailants, the men who had done that to him. So that was his idea, and so he approached me with that idea, and then I kept rewriting the story to make it work. He wanted to act in it, so in order for that to work, I made him the private eye. We had a limited budget, very limited budget, so in order for the budget to work, I had to keep writing elements. So it took a few drafts, and that's kind of where I got to this story that we have now on film.
You're a very, very well versed or well traveled or cultured individual, I have to say, honestly, from the many interviews I heard. And for you, it was very, very important that you said, I think, you won't find any demonizing Middle Eastern people in general, and you'll be very careful in navigating through this. Tell us why that is important for you.
That was the thing I was most scared of. Well, it's important to me because it would be silly to say this group of people are all horrible people and they all do this one thing. Yes, this bachabazi practice occurs, but it occurs by a few individual peoples. That doesn't reflect all of Afghanistan. That's just a couple of individuals that do this. So I didn't want this to be a thing where we're saying all Afghanis do this terrible thing. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so what I was trying to do in the film was create this balance where, there's very few redeeming people in the film. And that's my outlook is, unfortunately, there's more gray than black or white necessarily. And there's more, everyone's flawed. And that's what you have here in this film, a whole group of flawed individuals.
Beautiful. A Respite can be seen on, I believe, YouTube, Amazon, Prime, Apple TV. Where else could it be seen, and how has the response been so far, Saro?
So Respite is on Amazon, Vudu, any platform you could rent a movie or purchase a movie, that's where you can find it for the most part. I think the only place it's not on is Netflix, but it's on every other platform, I believe. Maybe not Hulu either. So wherever you could rent a movie. The response has been good. I'm still actually, the film was released January 26th, and we're still waiting for reviews to come out. We've sent it out to get reviews from critics. In general, I think there's been more positive than negative. I found a lot of the critiques to actually be quite fair. And the challenge is this, this film we made for, we made this movie for $50,000. Which is nothing.
Nothing, absolutely.
Nothing. So the challenge is competing with big films that are made with several million of dollars, and that's where critics view it with that lens. They don't know what a movie's made for, neither does the audience. To be fair, no one cares how much a movie's made. If you're asking someone to buy and rent the movie, it has to stand on its own. It has to be entertaining, or have a good story. And so I think we got the story right, and there are things that we've missed, but in general, I think the film's getting a pretty good response. The critique has been fair.
Saro, you said the movie cannot be seen yet on Netflix. What does it take? Because we don't know how things work out in that industry. What does it take to get onto Netflix?
Well, that's sort of the business angle. So we have a distributor. Gravitas is our North American distributor, and so and I think North America also includes Canada. So right now it could be seen in the US and Canada. And then we have a second distributor that's responsible for international. Now, I don't think it's been released internationally yet. Now, and what the distributor then does is they make the arrangements with all the platforms. I think the reason it's not on Netflix is that if it goes on Netflix, it can't go to the other platforms, or there's arrangements like that behind the scenes that I'm not fully aware of, honestly.
Saro, the past year we've been busy with the pandemic. Hopefully, it's going to leave us very soon. How did that affect you? How did that slow down the project? Tell us how it was to work under the pandemic.
So it affected me. So my primary work is I primarily work as a cinematographer. Been doing cinematography for about 10 years, several films as a cinematographer. This was my first as a writer director. So of course, pretty much there's been very little filming happening this past year. Now, I've been in a very fortunate place because I have a full-time job with JP Morgan Chase, where I'm their in-house cinematographer. And so it hasn't affected me much financially, personally. And in fact, it's been advantageous to me because things have been slower even for me at work. And so I've had more time to write, and I've used this time, this quiet time, to try to develop more projects. That's been my whole focus. So, I'm just trying to make the most of the time. I do have more time on my hands, but rather than watching TV or movies, which I rarely do, I've been spending it writing.
I also know that you have been teaching film at Columbia University, I believe, right?
Well, I don't know if I taught at Columbia. Maybe I taught one class or a couple of classes there. I taught at New York Film Academy for
New York Film Academy.
New York Film Academy for a couple of years. And then I've been asked to teach a few things here and there for a couple of other places.
Yeah. My question is basically, what would you advise young people who want to go into the film industry? What will be your words of advice to them? That would be
That's a
something
great question.
from you.
So my word of advice would be, you should absolutely try it, and then determine if you love it, because you absolutely need to love it to do it, because it's going to be a long and hard road. And then if you love it, then my next advice would be to try to make a fantastic short film, and hope that gets some traction in the festival circuit, and then hopefully you'll get traction and get to make your first feature. But that's pretty much the path, I guess. And so, but you have to determine that you love it, because that path may take years. So
sure,
you have to be pretty committed.
There are two Armenians I will bring up in this discussion or this talking to you. It is Armenia Bogosian, who really forwarded me the link saying, Vartan, watch Saro Varjabedian. He was my student in 1991. She gave me the dates also at Holy Martyrs Armenian School. And the other one who really nobody told me was there, it is his voice that told me who he was. It was Shimavon Atamian. And I called and I was in touch with him. Well, tell us about these two people,
So Zarmene Bogosian was my principal when I went to Holy Martyrs. And I mean, she is just amazing in that she's dedicated her life to the Armenian community.
Very correct.
And to the school. And I think her contributions to the community have been phenomenal. And she's been a huge support to me later on in life, because my first thesis film, when I was at at grad school was this film I wanted to do in Armenia, and I was looking for an actor in her 80s, a woman in her 80s, and I was looking everywhere, couldn't find anyone. And so then I stopped by. I asked Armin, I was like, "Listen, do you have anyone, a woman in the 80s who you think would be a great actor?" And she gave me someone who became a lifelong friend. Um, Her name was Marge, and and so thanks to Zarmany, I was able to make this movie. And ever since then, she's been amazingly supportive. And then Shima Bon, has been a family friend
Great.
for years, also through Holy Martyrs, because we're all in the same community. And I work with Shima Bon, or I bring my car to Shima Bon to get it fixed. So I see him at least twice a year or more. So I constantly see him, and he's just such a wonderful person. And I had this character in the film who was Syrian, and I was having trouble finding a Syrian actor, but I need an actor that could pull it off. I'm sorry, not Syrian, no, Afghani actor. The character was Afghani, but I know Shima Bon's history, and I know he was from Syria.
Yes.
And so I thought he can pull off the accent a little bit and make it believable. And I also know that Shima Bon has acted before. I've seen him in his in one play, because I know Shima Bon has acted in a couple of Armenian theater groups.
Yes, absolutely.
And so I approached him. I asked, "Would you do this role?" And he did it, and he was phenomenal. He's gotten some of the best feedback I've gotten is everyone says, "I love the guy in the hookah shop."
Yeah. He did a good job. As I said, his voice is so recognizable that gave him away. But let me just ask you one more question. You have, or your movies or documentaries have been shared in Armenia at the Pomegranate Film Festivals. What do you think of that work, the whole festival itself? How do you?
Oh, the pomegranate, or
Yes.
sorry, the golden apricot?
Yes. Are
I'm sorry.
Are these two different things? Two
Yes,
different
there's there's two. Sorry, so which one were you asking me, Bartan, about?
Any one of them, because they both deal with films, right?
Armenia.
Pomegranate Film Festival, a golden apricot.
Okay, so yeah, I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of films play at Pomegranate, which is in Toronto.
Oh, totally.
Toronto. So in Toronto, there's an amazing Armenian community,
Yes.
very large community, and they're also very kind of centered around their church, and their community is so amazing. They went so far as to build a massive center next to their church with a theater, and they have this. It's actually one of my favorite festivals, the Pomegranate Film Festival, because it's just so great to be able to have your movie screened for a theater full of Armenians, and to have this experience with Armenians, and then the Golden Apricot is amazing to be in Yerevan, and to have your film screened there and be part of. It's a very big festival in Yerevan. They have films playing in several theaters all around the city, and they make it's a very big event, and it was quite a wonderful experience as well.
Saro շնորհակալ ենք, մեկ խոսքը հայերենով գուզեմ լսես, մեկ խոսքը։
Yes, well, yes, I'll shunagam.
Bravo. That's all I wanted to say. That's all. Nothing. Is there anything in closing, Saro?
I don't know. This has been wonderful. Thank you for this interview. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you. And I hope to watch, people will watch Respite on whatever platform they do watch. And congratulations, and good luck in all your future activities, endeavors.
Thank you. Shnagalutun.
Shoragalutu. Thank you.